Thanks to everyone for coming on today. Great crowd as usual. So today we've got a guest today is Kevin Hill. I'm going to ask Kevin a few questions in a minute, but first up, Kevin's just going to run through a little bit of a story, give you a little bit of his story, I should say first. So, Kevin.
I'd like to congratulate Matthew and Steve for the wonderful job of putting all these photos up together here. And but no doubt it's history. And if my arithmetic is right, this club is 140 years old this year. So there's a mighty effort. So for all you young people out there, keep on batting on and another 50 years. My journey with Euroa Football Club commenced in approximately 1948 on the scoreboard, on the tin scoreboard out here behind the goals. The equipment was a set of numbers and a hammer and nails. And after that, the decision was made that the English cricket team was to come here and play cricket in the early 1950-51. So Harry Alexander obtained the working machine for the scoreboard at the MCG in Melbourne and put it in the old scoreboard out there, which when that was completed, I was fortunate enough to also to operate that for many years after that. In 1955, Les Reed used to take a lot of us young fellas for coaching here for Wednesday afternoon. We weren't good enough to get a game with the seconds and probably too young. And to mention a few names, I can only remember it was Billy Williams and myself, and John Sullivan, Tony Beverley, just to name a few. A few of them went on to play footy, like Billy and I did. I had my first game with Euroa Seconds in 1956. That was a very, very wet year. I was very fortunate enough to be in the 58, 64, 65 and 66 Premiership. I'd like to acknowledge the commitment of the Present Committee and anyone connected with Euroa Football Club, the way it's operating at the moment. I think it's a mighty club. I have three grandsons and three granddaughters enjoying the fruits of Euroa Football Club, and I play for the mighty Magpies. I'd like to thank anyone who has contributed to the Euroa Football Club. Thank you.
So, in 1957, the Euroa Gazette reported that Kevin Hill and Billy Williams were two good young lads at the end of the picture. Coming into the senior team, he was coached by Bob Zusto, who was from Carlton, Dick O'Brien returned from Collingwood, Ian Hughes, who won the league medal in the Rankin North East League, as well as the KDFL. It must have been a pretty hard team to break into as a young player, Kevin.
Yes, it was a very, very successful team, and not only was the first a good team, we also had good reserves. So you had to be on your toes and play the game, and that was it.
In 1958, Euroa won the grand final easily, but there was actually a protest due to Ian Hughes, better known these days as Merv's dad, playing on a permit from Netball. He must have been a great asset for the side during the finals, and the protests weren't upheld. It was all okay, but some of Ian Hughes' stats to get aside from Kev for a moment. He won the 57 Rankin North East League BNF with Euroa. He won the 58 KDFL League BNF with Netball. And then he played in the Premiership with Euroa. He won the 59 WNE League Best and Fairest with Thornton, and again in 1960. And in 1963, kicked 6 goals in the grand final with Benalla. So give us a bit of insight into Ian.
In 1958, Ian Hughes was coach of Netball, and in those days we could get a permit to go from minor league to major league, and that's what the protest was over. The actual protest at one stage was upheld, and Harry Alexander was such a forceful and a hell of a good bloke. He took it to the highest level, and we were able to get Ian Hughes to play with Euroa in that 58 grand final. If you're going out on the ground and you want to pick up an opponent and you're saying this big bloke on there, you'd say, well, gee, I'd love to play on him. But 5 minutes later, you get for a hell of a surprise. You're a big man, agile, and very, very good set of hands. And arguably, you could say, I had a discussion with a good judge here this afternoon, you could say he's probably in the best half dozen players ever to play for Euroa.
Thanks, Kev. What are your memories of the day of that first premiership played? And I think you told me earlier, only 18 in that 1958 side, and the celebrations afterwards.
I was pretty lucky. I didn't have to do much of the rest of the blokes in front of me. It was pretty good. We had half-back line of O'Donoghue, disaster and Graham McLean. There were 3 outstanding footballers, so the ball didn't come down to our end very much. As for the celebrations, well, I was young and inexperienced. One episode was with probably one of the welcome at the 7 Creek Hotel, and someone says, I bet you can't get a beer at the golf club. So when you looked at a car later, it was going to the golf club. And yes, we got a beer, but we also got the message from word welcome.
In 1961, this was something I didn't realise, but in 1961, Euroa played our games at the showgrounds as a memorial over what was undergoing renovations, and I think that might have been when the grandstand was built, perhaps. What was it like playing at the showgrounds?
Yeah, we used to change here and run across under the viaduct to the showgrounds, but we had no alternative. This ground was under construction because the drainage system in 56, this ground was horrible, like all others in the competition. And also constructing that grandstand there, so therefore this was out of bounds. Yeah, we played over there. It was like playing in the paddock. But unfortunately, one day we played over there and a couple of people joining the car, he cut us to ribbons, and I think he might have kicked 6 or 8, 10 goals. And we got a decent old towel.
Moving into we're into the 60s now, but you're a core senior player by then. Euroa just missed the finals in 1961, lost a prelim final in 1962. Just about to go into pretty much the golden era. Was there any indication of the dominance that we were about to have going into that 1963 season?
No, I don't think there was any sign of it, but when Nick O'Brien took over, you saw the mould us into a team, and we were all mates, all local fellas. We were lucky enough at the time we did acquire 2 very good school teachers, Jeff Newell and Jock Desmond, and we were very lucky. Since then also we're lucky to have school teachers, Scott Watson and Neil Bill to row the boat here. We moulded together under O'Brien, and his motto was one in, all in, and we played a pretty direct line of football. We're all mates and we're all going pretty well together, and I think that's why we're a successful team. There are probably better teams with more ability than we had, but they couldn't beat us.
That's great to hear. Now, the 1963 grand final, we've all heard a story of that very late in the game, against Thornton it was, one of their players took a mark and Hugo about touch play on, and so he did play on and kicked a hurry point. The ball swept down the other end of the ground and John Saxon kicked a long goal to seal the premiership, and so we're just not sure, is that true?
Yeah, that's true. I suppose, you know, when you play, you've got to treat, you've got to be able to do something. You've got to win at any cost, hopefully. We're lucky, put it that way.
I've heard about the John Saxon goal, but not about the touch, so that was good to hear. 1964 Premiership was a real mix of youth and experience with a lot of the players from the 57 58 Premierships, and we had Les Reid returning, and some young players like Dom Gross, Robin Murray Gore, who come into the seniors, and Les kicked 4 goals in the grand final. How did you see the mix of players in that side?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was just the progress of what was going on at the time. Players were coming up to seconds. Like the seconds, they had a real good team, and anyone that come up to the seconds always acquitted himself very, very well. Neil Whitten, he was captain of the seconds, and he dedicated himself to the seconds team, and we got a hell of a lot of good football to come out of the seconds, at the place of the other ones were good away.
And then we move on to 1965, where we were behind. Euroa was behind by 16 points at 3/4 time, and Harold Alexander took 1 point due to a great defensive effort in that last quarter. Can you fill us in a little bit on that?
It was just a hard old struggle all day, and there was a pretty violent incident earlier in the day, and we probably settled down better than the other mob, and the back line played well, like Peter Dunno and those fellas. It was good team effort, and it was a hell of a good game.